Let's bring in News Nation senior national security contributor, Lieutenant General Richard Newton. Lieutenant General, always good to see you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. Always good to be with you.
You heard me and Hannah speaking. The president said that DNI chief Tulsi Gabbard is wrong when it comes to Iran's nuclear capability. What do you make of that? Where could he be getting his intelligence from that is different than his national intelligence officer?
I don't think this is a unique situation. My experience, certainly in Washington, D.C., and having been in the White House sit room when some decisions are made in the past, intelligence is not perfect. And so sources change, conditions on the ground, as well as intelligence capabilities evolve. I think also the president is looking, we have a very broad U.S. intelligence community, not only the CIA, but there's other sources of intelligence, such as the Defense Intelligence Agency and so forth. There's also international partners who provide essential elements of information to really form an intelligence playbook for the president to be as informed as he possibly can up to the last moment. The bottom line is, and my sources tell me also, Iran is definitely on the path to building a nuclear weapon.
Israel's IDF has said that they've destroyed half of Iran's launchers. What does that tell us about Iran's current capabilities as this conflict continues?
Well, first, let's talk about Israel's capabilities. They own the skies, air superiority 24/7 now over Iran, and they've been meticulously going deep into their target playbook that they've had for years. As you mentioned, going after ballistic missile capability, in this case, the launchers. What it tells me about Iran is Iran no longer has any cards to play. Israel is going after their ballistic missile capability. They're going after their leadership, their command and control, and they own the skies, and they're over Iran, especially Tehran, as I mentioned, 24/7. So nonetheless, I believe that Iran is in a survival mode here, Hannah, as a result of these relentless strikes by Israel.
We've seen a strategic offense. We've seen a surgical offense from Israel over the past 9 days. Israel has said it's targeting Iran's paramilitary forces. It plans to hit all of Iran's nuclear sites. With their capabilities, especially in the air, like you mentioned, why does the U.S. need to get involved in this conflict at all? Is it just the Fordo bunker that Hannah mentioned with the nuclear site?
Well, Israel, again, has done a remarkable, actually astounding job, going after Iran and the regime in that case. But what Israel does not have is specific capabilities to go after deeply buried target sites, as Hannah mentioned, the Fordow nuclear weapons site that has deeply buried centrifuges up to 3,000. Also, that's where they house a lot of their nuclear weapons scientists and so forth. 200 to 300 feet below the ground, Hannah, with 3-foot, concrete walls and so forth. The only weapon system that can take out deeply buried targets are United States Air Force B-2 stealth bombers. With the bunker buster, the 30,000-pound, we refer to it technically as the GBU-57, that can go after and put this target in harm's way. Let me make a point here, however. It's not just, Fordow. There's other deeply buried targets, but this is the crown jewel, the centerpiece of Iran's nuclear weapons development capability. So if we're able to, again, add to significant Israeli air power, with the employment of Air Force B-2 stealth bombers, this would really put, I think, a significant defeat of Iran's nuclear weapons capability.
Lieutenant General, tell me more about the American troops on the ground in the region and our current capabilities currently.
Well, we've got 45 to 50,000 American men and women in the Mideast, and they've been there for actually years. And so they are potentially in harm's way should the United States enter into the fight. But I believe they're well led. They're very well protected. Also, we've got sea-based capabilities. We've got the Carl Vinson U.S. Carrier Strike Group. Certainly there, we've got the USS Nimitz now there. And we've also added a third Arleigh-class Burke destroyer to add to the 2 destroyers we have just right off of Israel that provides air defense capabilities with the Aegis missile defense capability in order to help defend not only U.S. forces, but also Israel as well. So there's plenty of U.S. firepower there. I would also make sure our viewers understand we have 700,000 Americans living and working in Israel. So that's also part of our core U.S. national security interest, is to protect the American people, not only our close ally, but Israel, those who are serving in Israel and living in Israel.
Sir, now I have to ask you about this timeline. President Trump has said that he will make his decision on whether or not the U.S. will proceed within 2 weeks. 12 days left on that countdown. We are all counting the days. From your experience, what's happening on both sides with this deadline approaching?
Well, first and foremost, as I mentioned, with regard to Iran, they have very little cards, if any, to play right now. They're in Geneva. They were there yesterday. They're trying to just meet with your European foreign ministers, almost as if they're trying to create a divide between the United States and Europe. This is out of their playbook, Hannah. You and I have talked about it many times. Delay, delay, delay. I don't think there's really anything, that they're going to be able to delay presence of what has come with a very forceful decision. But he's trying to give diplomacy the last ounce of opportunity here. However, the United States, should we become involved, and I think the president has already given an approval of the type of operation that he would provide for a very limited but precise capability here. The key word here, it says 2 weeks, but it's within 2 weeks, Hannah.
Yeah.
That could be, certainly within the next 24 hours to 96 hours or maybe into the next week. But I think again, Iran is on the clock here. The United States has the capabilities. Certainly Israel, they've been pounding the Iranian regime for the last several days. I believe that U.S. capabilities, and I would advise the president, I would say that he needs to move forward on this option if he wants to take out Iran's nuclear weapons development capability, period, dot.
I don't mean to rush this answer, but I have to ask you as I run out of time, do you believe the U.S. will ultimately get involved?
I do. I believe the United States will employ its again, long-range B-2 stealth bomber capability to take out that site at Fordo.
We always appreciate your analysis on this show, sir. Thank you so much. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.